please help guide us through today's meeting and make decisions for the welfare of the county and the residents and guests of our county. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Frothier is absent. Drummond,
Here.
Breggy is absent. Small.
Here.
Thompson.
As acting chair, I would ask that our two commissioners who are not with us be excused. This was excused rather than absent. They both have personal issues they truly needed to address today. You've all had an opportunity to review the minutes from the July 20th meeting. What is the pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 20th. Second.
Moved and supported. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate affirmatively aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment. Please indicate your name and your township. If you wish to
Are we
speak.
going? Well, about 5 minutes ago, you weren't sure.
May I ask who's speaking?
She's going now.
May I ask who's speaking, please?
You're no longer up there.
With no response, we will turn to someone here in the audience, please.
Gary Vanook, Mitchell Township. If I believe the way things have been ordained, that God puts people into authority, I trust what happened at last night's election has been ordained by him. I pray that you all use his wisdom and his judgment in executing your jobs. The public trust is a very important thing to do, along with upholding the Constitution. And everything I've read said he ordained this government, and our founders had looked to him for guidance. And I would recommend you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Further?
Dr. Doctor, Harrisville Township. I wanted to bring to your awareness, in case you weren't aware, of a couple of resolutions got passed by the Alcona Republican group, the executive committee, the Republican Party of Alcona County. I'm not a member of the executive committee. One of them was, I spoke about it last week, about the difference of opinion as to whether you use black or blue ink versus felt pens. They passed a resolution. They also passed a resolution rejecting the certified results of the 2020 presidential general election. I didn't know Carrie was going to be here to talk about it, if you're aware of these or not. She brought up that resolution brought up a couple other interesting things about the machines that Jerry had also talked about last time, that they weren't certifiable because the certifying group wasn't certified to certify the machine. So what a mess. But what I wanted to talk about is the financial aspect. A friend of mine who was a chairman election inspector of one of the townships was there when the Dominion people came, and they had two people come for 2 hours to do whatever they need to do for the election, and give them a bill for $695. So if you pay an election worker $10 an hour, that would be 70 hours you could pay an election worker or workers to do the same thing as a machine, and that money would stay in the county, and it'd stay in the township. Since we're dealing with a couple hundred ballots, in that case, keeping that money in the county would be important. Yeah, a quick look of Curtis, Haynes, and Harrisville Townships online, their budgets show that they've spent $27,000 on election. I don't see how that's possible, but I just wanted to see if you guys, when you had agreed to contract with Dominion, did you give good thought to the financial burden this would put on the townships? I can't imagine that Mitchell, Curtis, or Millen wouldn't love to have thousands and thousands of dollars back in order to do with whatever they had, even if they had to pay several $100s to pay election workers. This was just one bill from them. Dominion was $695 for 4 man-hours work. So I would hope you would consider that, looking at that, would consider the financial aspect of your contract with Dominion and what that relates, what that kind of burden that's putting on the townships. You know, in political terms, sometimes when there's a change in the composition of a body such as yours, they always take that opportunity to maybe clean up things that maybe were hanging before new members came on. I know Commissioner Gothier will be the only one leaving, most likely, or possibly. But I would just hope you would consider the financial aspect that maybe paying that kind of money to handle paper ballots, and they're already having to do paper ballots anyway, might not be the best way of these townships would like to spend the money. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Carol, I wanted to speak, I might do a couple of minutes and three, should I wait till later?
Is it sort of under presentation?
Yeah, probably more.
Anyone online who wishes to speak under public comment? Hearing none, we will close public comment and move into presentations, and Sheriff Stevenson, what have you got?
That was awful dang handy, thank you. A couple things. First, you probably are well aware, we have a couple of murder suspects in custody in Iosco County. They belong to us. They are now our custody, they're our responsibility, even though they're in Iosco County. Got some concerns, security concerns here. I'm gonna stand here and tell you again that I think your kiosks are an absolute joke. I don't think they perform the duties we need them to do. And guess what? Today we had 2 victim family members upstairs in the courtroom, and I had 1 bailed. It's not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it. I'm probably gonna be in your budget time asking for some type of money for like a whole new program for courthouse security. Excuse me, I didn't finish my minute. You got me in here too quick. But we gotta do something for courtroom security, gotta do something for the county building security. We gotta work on something for transports. My budget's getting eaten alive on overtime for these things. I got budget got a little messed with this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm gonna be funding these spots out of my overtime budget right now. Just because I don't have the staff, but I'm gonna have people in the courtroom. I'm probably gonna have to have 2 or 3 people every time the suspects are brought here. There's a male and female suspect. They can't be transported together because of that. They're also co-defendants. They can't be transferred because of that. They're also going to require 2 people transporting every time and probably 3 people in the courtroom. 1 to guard them, 1 to guard the judge, and 1 to keep an eye on the auditors. So the math is going to be huge for overtime in the near future. Along with that, I'm hovering right around 10 inmates in Iosco County, and our deal with them was for $135,000 for the year. I budgeted $145 because if we bleed over, we owe per day per inmate. Last week, $10,000 was taken out of that budget, so I'm probably going to have to ask that. Run over.
I would ever so gently mention that the 2 people who are on finance.
Yeah, I see that, not here. Right. That's
Belong to the choir.
That's unfortunate. I'll set up something and talk with them about a couple of these budget things, but that we'll probably need some of that put back in. Not right away, but when I get my next bill or the last bill for the year. Along with that, Cheryl has calmed my nerves quite a bit, but 3 of my line items for salary were cut last week. Unbeknownst to me until after it was done. I was gone today. I missed a day of work. And unfortunately, somebody died and people got arrested, things like that. But anyways, I didn't get back right away. I didn't approve some changes to the budget that were proposed, and they went through anyways. Wasn't real happy about it. Cheryl calmed me down. I appreciate that. But little known, I hired somebody that was going to be paid out of that one line item. Well, there's $0 in it. I need to be asked about these things, and I don't know what the common procedure here is, but how many hands are in my budget, and who's allowed to make changes to it without checking with you first.
No one should be making changes.
So, yeah. So we straighten that out. Sure, I'll help we straighten that out. We'll be okay with that budget, but I gotta know these things ahead of time because I know when I run that budget report and I look at it, I start having mini strokes and I can't forecast too much of those. So I think I'm gonna have enough staff this fall to put somebody in the school. It's looking like it. I'm not getting a whole lot of interest volunteered by the deputies to take that position. So if I don't hear any interest the next day or so, somebody's gonna get voluntold that they're gonna do it. I don't like to do that because I'd like to have somebody interested in it, but it's kind of an expensive venture to get into, so I'd like to have the deputy commit, 3 to 5 years into it to do it. So but my plan is to have somebody back there full-time this year. Think I'm gonna have the staff to do it. I did hire a young lady the other day. I think she'll work out fine. We have somebody who's just got off FTO right now, and he's doing very well. So if those two go through, I'll have enough to do that. Still running bare bones on the road, but I don't think school resource officer this year is an option. I don't think it's a nice to have anymore. I think it's one of those have to haves. And we're gonna do it one way or another. I mean, if I end up having to be short on the road, God help us, but there will be somebody in the school this year. Not playing with that anymore. It's just not an option anymore. I think that's what I had. Questions or anything like that? No?
On your security for the building, have you had suggestions or thoughts on what would be the best thing? And if you did, could you put them down so we
Yeah. Let me start drawing some numbers up. I really hadn't put a lot of thought into it today until today when we had one of the defendants appear on Zoom, but family members showed up in the courtroom and they had T-shirts on it supporting the victim. So I mean we're gonna have victims' families here for every court hearing. And I also think we're gonna see the judge tell me to have the defendants here for every hearing because it's a capital case. So there's gonna be some transport. I'll do some math and try to figure out where we're at, but we're gonna have to do something substantial here, at least for the trial.
Further questions from Sheriff?
Excuse me. Is there any federal money coming down yet for security at the schools that was supposedly went through those gun bills?
Yeah, I haven't seen it come to me yet, but I heard chatter of it, so that would be nice to see. But yeah, they were saying that, they were even talking about based on what your population of your school is, how many resource officers should be there. I think they're just recommendations at this time. Like anything else, they don't mandate it without having to pay for it. So until we see some money, they're not mandates. But like I said, I think it's not a nice to have anymore. It's a have to have.
Any further questions from Sheriff? Hearing none, thank you very, very much.
Thanks for listening.
Take
Appreciate it.
that to heart. All right, addressing the agenda itself, there are 2 items that I would like to ask that we add to it. Besides Sheriff's presentation, under unfinished business, the PIE&G letter of intent, which you all have received copies of, and also under new business, the adjustment to Fund 242, which you will just short time ago.
And emailed on the 29th of July.
True. I'm sorry, yes. It's not new. There is one other item that I'd like to pull from communications and just identify it, but we don't need to take any action on it, I don't believe. And that would be to let the library know that the Board of Commissioners appoint library personnel, library board members. It is not done by the library. And so if you would like, we could ask the clerk's office to send that letter, or the liaison person could let them know, whichever seems most prudent to do.
if the liaison person do it?
Liaison person do, that's excellent. Thank you. I'm sure
They didn't recommend it.
They- Right, the letter doesn't recommend it, it indicates that they did.
Okay,
And they need a letter of,
that was my fault. Or I'm sorry, that was my thought.
yeah, no, they need to have it a little bit different written, and then we'll come back next 2 weeks.
generally speaking, we don't have a problem with approving who they recommend. Although in recent times we have seen following of our ways, not the library, but other groups. But it needs to be tweaked ever so slightly. And probably can be addressed at our next board meeting. Is there any further modifications? Clerk or treasurer have anything further to add to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll run with it then in that manner. Moving down to unfinished business, you have in your packet a communication regarding the a memorandum of understanding between the county and Tucson Local 214. What is the pleasure of the board as far as action on that item?
Was the equalization director going to,
Pardon me?
was Troy going to address this at all?
He didn't ask me, so I'm assuming not.
That's quite.
If you want me on this,
You got the memorandum that, you got the memorandum from personnel that indicated that he supported it.
right, and I've talked to personnel. To them, and that's my,
Yeah, he met.
Okay. I'll let them.
What is the pleasure of the board, please? We need a motion and support.
I make a motion, we deny it. The letter of understanding.
I have a motion which we deny the memorandum of understanding. Do I have support? I will support. Further discussion.
The way this particular one is written is not, for example, the assistant has been removed from the letter of understanding, and that's one big thing, because it's only for one person, not for two.
It was intended for
It-
2%, ultimately.
But that's not what it's
That's
stated in
true.
this
That's-
letter.
you're-
In
you're
this
correct.
letter, it states
Yeah.
that they're talking about two individuals. And one is the equalization assistant and one was assisted the required appraiser. So there's two different people, one asking for 65, one asking for an extra 1,000, and it has been through personnel removed down to just one person. And so I don't, this letter is not correct.
That is correct. We have a motion to deny the memorandum of understanding. Further discussion?
So I'm understanding there seems to be something that's not correct on this.
Can I talk or not?
Sure.
Because we talked about this, and from what I was understood, that we were gonna eliminate the one that we were talking about on that.
This is what we were given to.
Yes, I know, and then we talked about it in the
Yes, we
room
did.
there,
We did.
and we said we were gonna eliminate the one that we're
That's
talking about. This, I mean, if you wanted me to draft something,
No, we are not asking directly. We are obligated, I believe we are obligated to respond to this.
okay, but I could have had them coming up with another memorandum. I mean, from what I understood, we were going to take that off the table when we talked.
The personnel committee submitted recommendations to the full board. Those were not utilized, they were basically rejected, and this is what is in our packet and what we are being told we should. We're working off of the packet we were given.
But we discussed this, is what I'm saying. And if there was something else that you needed, I would have relayed that to them
The
too.
personnel committee, correct me if I'm wrong, the personnel committee did not need anything further. If other board members need something else, that's different.
Well, is this, I mean, then why is this on there? That's what I'm
Troy,
saying.
that's what we were given to take action on.
This is so old.
Excuse me, this is what the board was given to take action on.
I'll put it in my emails.
But when we talked to you and I talked to you and Bill,
You are correct. You are correct.
so where does that fall in our discussion? That,
This is what we were given to act on today.
I know, but is what I'm saying, what is the policy? How do I, would have presented the right thing then to you?
You did.
We don't, I discussed with you that I did not want that on.
Agree.
So that's what I'm saying. Well, how do I get it off there where it wouldn't be on there anyway?
The board will take action on that today.
Okay, so that'll be gone. So that part
You're
you're saying,
taking action on the entire, I have not heard board request for modification.
okay, and when we also talked, I thought we were under the same, the 65 is not the total, it was only 35. Because they're already getting 35.
Correct.
Do you understand that, Terry, at all, or? They're not asking for $6,500 more, they're asking for 35, because they're already getting that.
Are
That
they
was
not asking for 3,000 more?
35, I think.
Then that makes it 7,000. Not 6,500.
I think it needs to be rewritten. with
Well, that's what I
exact-
wanna know, what,
We have to, based on
Okay,
what
but-
we have here, we have to, we're
Act on
basically
this,
denying this.
but what you need to go further is what I was asking. And
We
That's
want-
kind of what I was asking in the meeting.
We need someone to have,
What do you guys need?
Well,
I have to read this.
I know, I just know what you're saying, but I'm saying,
I
what
think
do I
that the
have to do?
personnel committee, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, is going to send out a new memorandum, which will basically repeat what we've already sent out and ask the board to move forward on the recommendation from the personnel committee, which they have chosen not to do.
So my question still is, what would I have to do
Nothing.
to present where it
We've already
shows?
met with you. For the personnel committee, you don't need to do anything
Okay,
at this time. We've met with you, we've had discussions, we've exchanged documents,
right, I understand you gotta, like this, and you gotta act on this.
correct?
So to get the right, where it's understood, where Mr. Small would understand it better.
He got every copy of everything that we sent. He and the other commissioners all got copies of what we sent to them and to the clerk's office.
So is what I'm saying, I understand you gotta act on this, just like Bill has said. But it was what I'm saying, because it's deceiving, if it's 7,000, excuse me. It's 3,500 more, I mean, that's why I'm saying, how can I get this clearer? So somebody like the other commissioners can understand it.
They got it.
Well, it looks like he doesn't
I'm
understand
gonna
it.
make a motion at this time to table this
We-
until we can discuss this more. Obviously, this is not clear to everyone, or at least not to me, so I'm gonna make a motion to table.
They all got copies of everything.
Well, I'm saying, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying, he's confused. So my thing is, how can we clear this up so the other three can probably understand it?
All right, we have a motion to table the memorandum of understanding. It does not allow for debate. I would ask for a roll call, please, on the motion to table.
And it's like,
I'll second it before it goes to. the-
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Small,
yes, on table.
Brumman,
No,
Thompson.
Yes, on table.
the table lives, and it will, we would ask that it be put on the next agenda. And in the meantime, personnel will again send out their recommendation and moving forward on it. Next item is the ARPA report.
I don't
You
know.
don't have, okay. Do you have anything on it, Trina?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Pardon?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The ARPA?
We have-
That's that big packet right over here that we just, who's gonna do the reporting. We are just keeping it on the agenda,
Oh. okay.
but we are missing 2 commissioners, so. You wanna just,
Are you asking for any
This-
action to be taken?
not at this one, not at this one.
None? Okay, thank you. Moving on then, the B&G report, the letter of intent. This is almost a copy of what we received approximately 4 weeks ago, I believe, The differences are in three, on the second page. The adjustments, the modifications in three are, furnace materials, the new verbiage that has been added and through the prosecuting attorney's office is franchise agreements in townships served by Consumers Energy. And then later, at the end of that same sentence, after the verbiage within 36 months, is the phrase of an executed agreement. Moving on down into 8, the modification of verbiage. The word each is in the original agreement we had 4 weeks ago. The new verbiage is each person requesting a new service will be required to pay PIE&G a non-refundable applicable charge of $100. Those are the only 2 changes from what we had 4 weeks ago. That indicated Tom has reviewed this. Dan has asked that we move forward on it. And the chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the letter of intent with the ING and have the chair
Okay,
sign.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we approve the PIE&G letter of intent and authorize the chair to sign. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Small,
Yes.
Brumman.
Yes. Thank you. Claims,
And you got the adjustment of funds,
pardon me?
adjustment of funds.
Oh, I put that at the bottom of the business, I'm sorry. We can do it now. As the treasurer indicated, we did get notice of this some time ago. It is a modification of Fund 242, the Cedar Lake Maintenance Fund. And it is actually the creation of a new budget, kind of sort of, because we didn't have anything originally. The amended budget is an increase of 35,000. Please correct me if I go wrong.
It's moving the money out of the 805 into the 242. We're eliminating the project fund because the project is completed and turning the Cedar Lake, the original 242, because we have that established, and that's where the maintenance is going to be handled from here on out for that project. So we're basically moving 35,177.75 out of the project fund to cover the maintenance. And that was originally budgeted in the information that when you
I'll make that.
made that
Second.
project.
It's been moved and supported that we make the adjustments as indicated. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Brumman,
Yes,
Thompson,
Yes.
Small.
Yes.
thank you, motion carries. On the payment of bills on claims, I would move, I'm sorry, I would like to have somebody else make this motion, please. Go for it, Jerry.
I'll make the motion to approve the pre-authorization claims and open claims for benefit payment between 7/20/22 and 2/22 for check numbers 1481-148-2, 1482-80. And check numbers 1903 to 1915 for a grand total of $715,609.98.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Questions?
Did I say that right? Thank you.
Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Small,
Yes.
Brumman,
Yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the request from the Marysville Arts Council. Asking again to use the grounds similar to years past. The Arts Council themselves and only the Arts Council would come in to get water and they would be allowed to use the restrooms, but it would not be open to the public.
So move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate affirmatively aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries. It is pending receipt of their insurance as indicated in the letter. This has come up a couple times, the agreement for the extension services for MSU. It needs to be signed, I think, by December. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to accept the agreement for extension service. For the next fiscal year
Second,
Thank you. Did your motion include authorizing the chair?
and authorize the chair to
Thank
sign.
you both. Discussion? Hearing none. All those,
That's good.
Dr. Walker? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate affirmatively aye. Those opposed, same. Motion carries. You received communication from the opioid, committee. To put a, notice in the newspaper. We received this a couple days ago. What is the pleasure of,
Make a motion to have the ad put in the paper for the opioid funds and have people submit or request dealing with prevention, treatment, and recovery of narcotics.
thank you both. Any questions, any? Okay, if I may digress ever so slightly, so we all know, we were involved in an opioid lawsuit. And we prevailed. The group we were with prevailed. And we will be getting money over an 18-year period, not a lot, but we must use it for prevention and treatment and recovery. And anyone in the area, even outside the county, can apply for some of that money. And this is a very preliminary letter to see if anybody's interested. So we have a motion on the building already.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, finance committee, finance report. Do you have anything from the finance committee? Madam Treasurer? You do not, then we will pass. Personnel report, I think, she said they have sent numerous memorandums regarding the equalization.
And we're still waiting on a union negotiation.
And the mediator, among others. Treasurer's report.
We have been working with different departments in the clerk's office. They did a half-year, mid-year review of wages and benefits. Those are set by the county commissioners in the budget. And then negotiations changed some of those, and those positions that the sheriff had referred to were no longer necessary for being funded. And there were other things such as the insurance and retirement that had changed that were in need of appropriate funding and to be handled within their budget. Was the recommendation of how that would be taken care of if there were other things that needed to be handled outside of that. But those items are generally not changed. They're not allowed to be changed. None of it is allowed to be changed without approval, obviously. But those items are governed by the board, and the board sets the rates for the wages and those kind of things. So there was not really a big mystery on how it happened. That was what happened. There was a review of all the employees and the benefit packages, and the information that was provided back in October prior to contract negotiations and different things were what was adopted by the board. And then the recommendations within those departments, once that evaluation was done by the offices, that it was, where the actual payroll comes from, and looking into that, and maybe there is a better system that could be utilized moving forward. We felt like the quarterly and half-year examination was appropriate. So some of those things did happen, and I guess apparently it just needs to be handled a little. We need to tweak the system on how these things are being done and addressed, and I'm open to suggestions from the board. These are your numbers that you're doing, and we're all kind of trying to work together to get the information as close to what it actually is without overstating or understating in the budget. So that's what we were doing with the half-year review on the wages and the benefits, because there had been a lot of contract negotiations that were kind of hanging out over there for quite a while in a lot of departments. And so we all did a concerted effort, I believe, to get the information as accurate as possible to be able to move forward. So that has been what we've been working on mostly.
Cheryl,
Yeah,
The only thing, I mean, your numbers are probably are accurate and all that good stuff. I guess it's a communication. Once any department has funds that need to be realigned, it wouldn't hurt to ship off an email just indicating, instead of being blindsided after a period of time and going back into their budget and seeing things move, that if the finance department if finds something to be moved because it's normal the way they would function, it wouldn't hurt to send an email to that department head just to let them know. I mean, anyone else would have the same
oh, they
argument.
are.
Um,
There's the emails out to each department.
okay. Before it's moved or after it's moved?
It is set for approval. There was I guess, the wages and the benefits, I guess maybe that would be a good policy for the board to take action on, how you want to handle that. Because at this time, there have been a lot of changes and different things, so maybe we just need to look at our policy and maybe maybe look into that and get some, a better timeline and action plan on how to do that.
Okay.
Because anything that is presented to any department, they have a certain amount of control, but you set the wages. You voted on this wage that changed because of negotiations that you made. And now we're at a time where in the budget, they have no control over wages and any type of employment. The retirement, healthcare, they have nothing to do with that budget, and that's what we're told every time. I can't say, no, I don't want to pay $100,000 in retirement in my budget. I want to put it into paper. I don't have that option. Because that's all controlled by what the board sets for wages and the accompanying implications of the increased wages means increased retirement. Somebody has a baby, somebody has a family, somebody they choose to not have insurance. That all makes an effect on the budget, and that department really doesn't have any say in that. So
I'm
I
not
guess,
asking for any say, and just a heads up indication that your budget is going to reflect the wages. or something.
Adjusted, is that?
Yeah.
Kind of,
It's just,
every single department that got any wage adjustments got that,
gets an email for that.
correct?
just sounded like one that we were just presented with, had no knowledge of changes in this budget.
There were a few things that we discussed. Because wages in one particular area had changed. And it had to be moved from one budget to the other, and anything that happens in that arena can be changed right back with one click of a button. And if it was something that was grossly inappropriate, I would have that changed in a second. As long as you let me know. There was no employee there. There was no communication that there was going to be an employee there to the clerk's office. So why would they leave that individual line item in there when there were other employment line items that needed to be changed? And so I guess there has to be some type of, I I thought we were all on the same page as far as communication, but obviously that wasn't the case.
Well, I think communication is it, and we all know that communication always, almost always can be improved. So,
Absolutely. So basically, that's what we've been working on. We are under 200 for our forfeiture taxes for the upcoming processes that are happening, which is a good thing. The sale is online and all set up. So anyone,
do you recall what it was last year at this time, the number?
it was under 200.
It was under 20, okay.
It kind
Couldn't remember.
the process that we're in right now is a little bit earlier than it was last year. So we have a little bit higher. So obviously, when we did the postings last year, it would have been a little bit less.
How is the system working, the new system that came from delinquent taxes and so forth, we had to do some changes? Is the process working better or getting through compared to with the lawsuit and all the other good things that we had to go through? There's a change in how we record the delinquent taxes and so forth. Is that starting to function as it should now, or?
No, we still, because the class action suit is still pending, we have no clear end in sight. They haven't made a decision on that I've been informed of. So that we have no clear picture on what time frame they're considering for the class action suit. I've been asked for 3 different date ranges, a 5-year, a 10-year, and beyond, which would be the beginning of when the new law took into effect on how they foreclose the properties. So I really don't know what the intention is and on how that's going to be. And there's also been a question about the fair market value and how they're going to process claims that are filed. We have a new claims process for the foreclosure, which is excess proceeds, and we had one that went through that I mentioned a few months ago. We have one filing that has filed for the upcoming tax sale out of 11 properties. So it's all really, really new right now. And with that class action not being settled, I don't have a lot of information. I know the liability, if that does happen on a fair market value, could be pretty devastating to the county. If the claim, depending on how they do the settlement for the claim. Financial.
Anything further? For us? Any questions? Chairman? And then our clerk, Madam Deputy Clerk.
As you all know, the primary election was held last night. It went very well. And the clerk's office would really like to extend their thanks to our township clerks and their poll workers for all their dedication and hard work. We're continuing on working on the things that follow an election process, and we'll be doing that for the remainder of the week.
A warm up for November.
Yes. We're jumping right into getting ready for that.
Any questions from the clerk's office? Hearing none, moving on to communications. Louisiana County regarding the no fault auto cap, healthcare cap. Allegan's was almost identical, certainly same subject. Clinton had one on taxpayers expense, the data that we did 2 weeks ago. The broadband for North Michigan counties. We've already touched base with the library modification for Teresa. And that was the primary communications, I believe, that were in our packet. Committee reports at this time. Commissioner Small.
attended the mental health meeting, which we lost one of our members. Carol and I talked today about it. Long time. I'll say a long time to you, short time to me, but really gonna miss it. I'm sure it's gonna shake up their board up there a little bit. Yeah, they're guys that know each other for like 20 years plus. It's gonna break them up pretty hard, so. That's all I have.
That is, for those who had the pleasure of having worked with Roger, he will be greatly missed. Very regrettable. Commissioner Thompson.
ACCOA, they are working towards Verizon has a system that for $4 a car, they can, if the car breaks down or the van breaks down, the driver can push a button and it will basically call for road service. And so they're working on each one of their vehicles to have that available. And they had Myers had a sort of a game going on that if you could donate as you checked out for the food bank in Alcona County, and they didn't get a whole good response, but Myers donated $5,000 to the food bank after it was over with. So they came out pretty good on that. I will take the letter back to the library to get it squared away correctly. Other than that,
Very good, thank you. I had a Sunrise meeting, we're getting ready for our park, which if things go well, it's every 3 years. If they don't go well, it's every year. Our last one, we were authorized for a 3-year period, and we certainly are hoping for that again. 911 board meeting yesterday. He has a part-timer that he's in the hiring process, interviewing process at least. And that's always good when you have an extra part-timer in a situation like that. So this time we will go back to public comment, 5 minutes again. Per person, if you have anything.
Yeah. Ray Summers, Equalization Director. I just, listening to the people, I hope in the future, I'm talking to you guys, that somehow the policies and procedures will somehow get in line or something, or where we can know what steps we have to take. I mean, I don't have a policy for equalization. And I don't know if any other department has a policy. I know there's a town policy. But I just hope that the policies and procedures will get fixed, so I know the steps I have to take to go through this. So I have to do what I have to do, and other departments have to do what they have to do, instead of one department has to do this and another one has to do this. Because I have no policy for equalization. I mean, and we talked about this, and hopefully we will head that way, where we will have a policy and procedure, so we don't have to. I will have more heads up on what steps I have to take to proceed. So that's what I'm hoping to see.
Anyone else?
Jerry Klingenberg, Harrisville Township. I was just gonna ask for a copy of the letter of intent from the PIENG.
Copy of what letter?
The PIENG, is it a contract?
it has to be signed by the
Yeah,
board
if
first.
you can wait until it gets signed, it would be, I believe it will be in our minutes. When they come up.
Was it the contract? It was the contract.
No, it's a letter of an intent
Letter
To
of-
hire them.
to work with them. And they're working towards the broadband
Yeah,
system, but
there's no non-disclosure on it,
pardon?
non-disclosure on that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah, non-disclosure, in other words, there's a letter of non-disclosure between.
Us and them, yeah. So it can't be given out at this point.
Get that. Yeah, I'm not
And
sure.
the money that came for that contract, that was from the FCC, correct? The 22.5 million, you went to, our District 1.
So follow you.
I'll show you later, or I can email it.
Anyone else?
I had a couple other things. We're working on getting your pavilion. I call it your pavilion, the city's pavilion here cleaned up. I know those of you who looked, it's pretty unsanitary. If I was working here, I'd be out there every lunch, so we're gonna keep an eye out for that. We'll get that cleaned up. Hopefully we'll get some bird netting put underneath there so that it won't have so much bird crap next year. But it's just nice, since we don't have a paper here, you know, Lisa's our paper now. She sends out information to everybody, but just put the word around for the next couple of weeks. I know it's late in the year. We're also working on trying to get a porta potty out there. Not a big deal for you guys, but for us who are there on the weekend, those of us who have uteruses have to pee more often. So it'll be nice to get that. And the other thing, the committee reports, what I personally love to hear, I love to hear Dave Hansen come and talk about what's going on and what needs to be done, because it's fascinating when I listen to, he lists how much repairs need to be made to the MSU Extension building on a building that you don't own, but you're required to make the payments. So all of us go, well, that doesn't seem like that's good money spent for the county. Can we buy that building? You know, so that's what the average man thinks. Hey, well, why don't the county buy that rather than putting $50,000 or $100,000 into something that we don't even own? But it's fascinating to hear him come and talk. So of all the committee reports, I always find that the most interesting when he comes and talks. But
Thank you. Anybody else? Does anyone online have anything? A public comment? If not, we will move back to commissioners' additional comments. Anything, Bill? Okay, hearing none, we will stand adjourned until August 17th. In the meantime, next week is fair. August 27th, plan on the Tractor Club at the fairground. Tomorrow is Forgotten Eagles. Got some busy times coming up. So thank you all for having fun and being